who is bankrolling white nationalist hate groups. Tell us about this.
Yeah, well, thanks, Tom, and it's really great to be back on your show. What I got my hands on the manifesto that the Buffalo murderer wrote before he killed 10 black people just a couple weeks ago. And I realized that he cited the websites of two pretty prominent white nationalist hate groups in his report. He cited propaganda that they put out alleging that, black people were inferior to white people. It's entirely propaganda, but, it influenced this person who ended up becoming a terrorist. And so what I'd known from my past reporting was that those two groups actually, not only are they considered charities by the IRS, so taxpayers are subsidizing them, but they're also funded by several major donor-advised fund sponsors. And so what those are is money managers who have clients, often individuals, who put their money into an account that these money managers manage. They invest it in the market and it accrues wealth. And then the donors, quote-unquote, advise the managers where to give their money. The thing is, these managers actually own the money once it goes into their accounts that they're managing. Fidelity Charitable Investments, Vanguard Charitable, Schwab Charitable, and most prominently Donors Trust, which is a conservative version of these, are actually funding white nationalist hate groups. Donors Trust gave $1.6 million from 2019 to 20 to VDARE. And also gave over $600,000 to the nonprofit Behind American Renaissance. So I've reported on this before, but I thought it was as good a time as ever to remind people that we have mainstream institutions that are giving considerable dollars, large chunks of the budgets, to these extremely dangerous white nationalist groups. So
tell me about VDARE and the American Renaissance. Who are these guys? What are they up to?
Well, VDARE is a foundation, and it's also a website called VDARE. It is led by Peter Brimelow, who I guess is a British immigrant, ironically, because they are known for their anti-immigrant rhetoric. Also, they've published on their website lots of white nationalists, anti-Semites, etc., and also a couple folks who ended up working for the Daily Caller, just to sort of call attention to the nexus between white nationalist groups and right-wing media. And the American Renaissance is led by Jared Taylor. He's kind of, one of those sort of older, influential white nationalists in the country who's been on the circuit for quite a while. Their main work and what they're most proud of and what they're really known for is a report called The Color of Crime that they first wrote in 1992, and they continue to update. Now, this is what the Buffalo killer cited in his manifesto. The Color of Crime is it's absolutely white nationalist, racist garbage. It's using data and making false conclusions from it in order to portray people of color as innately violent and hypersexual. These are, long-standing racist tropes going back hundreds of years. And they updated it most recently a few years ago, and they continue, unfortunately, to be funded by taxpayers.
So you mentioned Donors Trust, this conservative group or fund. Does it work that wealthy people give them money, they invest that money, the wealthy people still have a claim to the capital, but the interest is going to these racist groups, or was I misunderstanding what you were laying out in the beginning?
Not exactly. So this is actually now the most popular donation model in the country, at least as far as dollars go, because yes, mostly fairly wealthy folks are the people who have the money to start these accounts. There's a minimum amount you need to invest. Mm-hmm. But essentially you're going to a money manager and saying, I want to start a charitable account with you. Will you take my money, invest it wisely, and then dole it out to the nonprofits of my choice whenever I would like? And most of them eagerly say yes, and they don't discriminate as far as which nonprofits receive the money. So they accrue interest, but all of the principal and interest is part of their account, and then they can give that to whatever 501c3 charities they like.
So these are actual donations?
Yeah, they're actual donations, but they're technically coming from these donor-advised fund sponsors. So Donors Trust, Fidelity Charitable, Vanguard Charitable, Schwab Charitable, National Philanthropic Trust. There's a lot of them, and they're giving 5 or 6 figure, even 7-figure amounts to these some of the worst groups in the country.
Wow. You also mentioned Convention of States and Shadowy Institute filled with fringe doctors, and ALEC, the American Legislative Exchange Council. What's up with them?
You must be referring to a couple of different stories of mine.
Apparently.
But just to summarize, the Convention of States is a group that is trying to have a constitutional convention. And they've been working on this for years. They go around to the state legislatures and encourage them to pass laws, either basically signing them on to this convention or putting it on the state ballot as a referendum to decide if they'll be at the Convention of States. And so what they hope to do, if this does happen, and they have to hit a threshold of states before it will happen. I think there are only a few states left before they can do it. And the worry is that if they do this, first of all, they can change the U.S. Constitution however they like, because this has never been done.
Right.
And so they could do whatever they want. And, things that until recently seemed unthinkable, like getting rid of women's access to abortions completely, they could do that at the constitutional level. But they could do a lot of other things, too, that aren't actually, unfortunately, starting to unfold. And some of them claim that they just wanted to make it a balanced budget amendment, which is just basically ruling that the federal government can never spend more than it's borrowing. But there's no reason to think that they couldn't also do whatever they want. And the state lawmakers who would be as delegates who would be going to these things are becoming more and more extreme. And also the right has a majority in the majority of states. So it could be a complete disaster.
Yeah, absolutely. Are they getting money from these the donor trust and whatnot, or are they independent?
Yeah, no, I believe they do. I'd have to check my notes, but Convention of States Action is kind of I believe a 501c4 group that's connected to a charity that does receive donations from Donors Trust, but also from a lot of the right-wing family foundations.
Is Donors Trust, I mean, has anybody confronted Donors Trust with the fact that they're funding anti-Semites and right-wing racist hate groups? I mean, are they proud of it, or are they trying to hide it, or what?
Well, they sidestepped the question. They stopped returning my emails after a couple articles I wrote a few years ago, but I continue to get on the beat. But their CEO, Lawson Bader, sent a comment to me, which was a lie. He said that, we don't control where the money goes. It's up to the IRS. But actually, all of these types of groups, including Donors Trust, have in the fine print that their board of directors has to approve or reject any potential nonprofit recipient of donations that they're giving. So,
yeah, I'm on the board of a nonprofit foundation that gives away a lot of money, and it's absolutely true. The IRS doesn't decide anything. I mean, it's
look, yeah, the legal facts are that they own the money. So how could someone else who doesn't have any claim to the money anymore dictate where it goes? That's just not how it works. And the reality is, Donors Trust is a right-wing group, and I don't really know where their board of directors stands on white nationalism, but I think they'd be more amenable than the Fidelity board. And the Fidelity charitable folks, I would assume, are just scared of a lawsuit. They're scared of some precedent being set. But I think that, doing the right thing is more important than paying some lawyers to defend.
Amen. Amen.